What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Blood and Beer, the show where we talk blood sport and we drink beer. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, we've got some MMA to talk, some beer to drink. Today, we're going to be recapping the PFL Battle of the Giants and UFC Fight Night Hernandez versus Piera. Pretty good cards. Not really good cards. I don't know. We'll get into it. We didn't do too good with the money this weekend. We were down 240 on the UFC card. Altogether, we were only down 45, though, so we have been just going up and down right around the even line for the past couple weeks. We were up 88.50 coming into this week, down 45 total, so we're down 43.50 now. So is what it is. We're gonna bounce back. Hopefully, this UFC 308 card, the show I do for that this week. Hopefully, we can make some money on that one. Big dogs barking in that one. But yeah, today we're breaking down UFC Fight Night PFL. We'll get into UFC first, and then we'll go ahead and look at UFC 308, the fights that we're going to be most excited for that card, and then other MMA news coming up or going on around the community. I don't know. We're drinking Busch Light today. It's a Sunday. The Browns are losing. Deshaun Watson got carted off the field. It's a Sunday, baby. All right, but kicking things off, like I said, UFC Fight Night. First fight of the night, we had Austin Lane defeat Rubelas to Spain by unanimous decision. He was a huge dog in this fight, plus 400, I think, and boring fight. He wrestles him for the whole fight, but did what he needed to do because Rubelas to Spain, well, he's a superstar karate fighter, knockout punch, knockout kicks. He's just got power for days. This dude has zero defensive wrestling. He is no good at all. So you just got to stop the takedown and he can get a knockout, but he can't stop the takedown. He has no ability to do it. So he's probably going to get bounced from the UFC pretty soon after one more performance like that, because that's how his last fight was, also against Waldo Cortez. So sad to see you go. Exciting fighter, but if you can't do MMA, maybe karate combat would be good for Rubelas to Spain. All right, next fight up, we had Gene Matsumoto take on Brad Katona, and this fight was fucking awesome. Goodness gracious. Okay, so this fight was awesome, though. These guys were trading, cutting each other up. Good work. A lot of dirty boxing combinations where, Matsumoto would get a combo off, and then Brad Katona would go in and get his own combination off. A lot of trading back and forth. Matsumoto was a little more active. He did a little more damage than Katona. It was a great fight. There were so many great fights on this card that this didn't get fight of the night, but it was fun as hell. Matsumoto gets the unanimous decision just based on damage and outworking Brad Katona a little bit. And that's a tough test for Matsumoto because Katona's a winner. He knows how to grind out the fights. Him and Kavanaugh, they have a good thing going there. But Matsumoto moves to 16-0. Then we had Azul Almabayev. He took on Matus Nicolau and defeated him by unanimous decision. Calls for a title shot afterwards. It was a really weird fight because the first round almost nothing happened. It was like 2 strikes to 6 for the two guys. And then round 2, it really picks up. They're both cracking each other. Nicolau gets dropped, but then he almost submits Almabayev. Round 3, it slows back down a little bit, but Almabayev's just outworking him. He ends up wrestling for most of the round and gets the unanimous decision. He's calling for a title shot. 125, it needs fresh blood because they've all fought each other. You got Nicolau, Schnell just retired, Pantoja, Moreno, Royval, all Kai Kara France, all those guys have fought each other so many times. So it'd be nice to see some new blood at 125. Goodness gracious. All right. And opposite of new blood is old blood. We got Darren the Damage Elkins taking on Daniel Pineda, and this was fight of the night. This fight was awesome. They both cracked each other a ton. They're getting hit. Pineda's cut up as hell. And when it went to the ground, you'd think maybe they'll take a break here, catch their breath. No, these guys were scrambling. They were working the whole time. A little bit of ground and pound, just always working to advance position. This fight was fun as hell. It was super close, but Darren Elkins had the gas tank at the end of the fight to get it done. I didn't think he would. I didn't think he'd be able to withstand Daniel Pineda's damage that he has at the beginning of fights, but he was. Darren Elkins gets the unanimous decision victory. And then afterwards, Daniel Pineda, he puts the gloves down, says he's going to retire. He's had it go two tough losses with who Nathaniel Wood and now Darren Elkins, 2 in a row. They're close fights. He didn't win them. They weren't robberies. It's just it sucks, and he can tell, I ain't got it no more. So he's gonna be putting the gloves up. He's stepping away from the sport. All right, next up, we had Cameron Smotherman. What a name, Smotherman. He steps in on 2 days' notice to take on Jake Hadley, and he made a statement out there. Outstrikes Hadley for 3 rounds. He's able to stop all Hadley's wrestling attempts. He was a plus 400 underdog. This dude coming in off the streets from Dana White's Contender Series, and he goes out there and he's swinging bombs on Hadley. He's cracking him over and over again, really damaging him. Pretty easy to see this was going to be a unanimous decision, but what a way to make your arrival to the UFC, or to announce your arrival to the UFC. All right, and we're wrapping things up here with this UFC card. Just a few more fights to go over. We had Charles Johnson. He took on Sumidarji, and he gets the unanimous decision victory. His 4th win in a row, 2024, 4-0 for Charles Johnson. Dude looked great. His striking was good. He was able to wrestle. Sumidarji, he's a striker. He's a knockout guy, so goodness, you'd think that it being on the feet most of the time would benefit Sumidarji, but it did. It was actually Charles Johnson's world they were living in. He was pushing the pace, controlling the action, and what really surprised me is Sumidarji looked like he was the better grappler in this. He had 2 submission attempts that were pretty close. He was able to scramble, get up from the ground. Just he looked like he was a grappler out there. Sumidarji did, and he normally is terrible at grappling, but regardless, he gets the loss. He does not get the job done. Unanimous decision, Charles Johnson. Real player at 125. Give him a top 15 shot. Let's see if he's one of those guys that can be new blood at 125. All right, moving on to our co-main event for the UFC Fight Night. We had Rob Font. He turns back the clock on Kyler Phillips. He gets a unanimous decision victory by outboxing him for 2 rounds. Shaky start to the fight, though. I had a bet in on Font. Step out of the room, walk back in. I see Font's taken down like 30 seconds into the round, and Kyler Phillips pretty much stays on him for the entire first round. So he easily takes that first round, Phillips does. But round 2, Font comes out. He's stuffing the takedowns at this point. He's popping the jab. It's finding a home each time. The right hand's coming behind it. So this dude, he's got it down. Rob Font's a master boxer, and you can't get into a boxing match with him. That's the only way he's winning the fight, is if you box him. And Kyler Phillips let him box him. They go out there. He was trying to work the leg kicks in round 3, but it wasn't enough. Font was just pressuring him. He was saying, like, listen, I've been here. I'm the old dog. I know what you need to do to win. He goes out there, does it. So plus 300 dog gets it done. A lot of big dogs on this card. We had Austin Lane, big dog, gets it done. We had Rob Font, big dog, gets it done. And Cameron Smotherman, big dog, gets it done. And then in the main event of the evening, we had Anthony Fluffy Hernandez take on Michel Pereira, and he absolutely dominated him. Round 1 was a little close. Pereira had some success on the feet, but by round 2, Hernandez is just pressuring him with his wrestling. It's suffocating. He's always in his face, always moving, always advancing position. And when he's not, he's throwing ground and pound heavy shots. By round 3, Pierre is done, and Hernandez is just running away with it. He ends up getting a round 5 TKO off of ground and pound, but he just wore on Pereira. His wrestling, it's nasty. 185. He's going to be a tough out, because this dude's tough. He's got a chin. His wrestling, his takedowns are good, but he's even better with jiu-jitsu. He's got great submissions. He submitted Adolfo Vieira. I mean, dude's a beast. So he's calling out Izzy for his next fight. We'll have to see how that goes, but I'm not opposed to it. I don't think it's a great fight for Izzy, because you lose to Anthony Hernandez, and where's that put you? But that's what we got for the UFC Fight Night. Now we're moving on to PFL Battle of the Giants. We had Francis Ngannou. He took on Hanan Vieira. 3 years off almost, gets a first-round knockout. He looked good. Wrestling takedown, nice. And then ground and pound from like a mounted back position almost. So gets a TKO stoppage. Vieira had absolutely nothing for him, and Francis is still good. Doesn't tell us a whole lot, though, but it was a good showing for him. Chris Cyborg outworks Larissa Pacheco. Pretty boring fight, I thought. 49-46 all the way across the board. We had Johnny Eblin. He does the same thing to Fabian Edwards, holding him down, out wrestles him for 5 rounds. He retains his belt. Who cares? And then we had Paul Hughes narrowly defeat AJ McKee in a split decision. This card was so underwhelming. I kept hearing MMA media say, this is a good card, this is a solid card. I didn't think that. I didn't think that there were really any good matchups on it. And when you look at the odds, the closest matchup was Pacheco and Cyborg. Cyborg dominates. And Paul Hughes versus AJ McKee. That's a split decision. That was a decent fight. It could have gone either way, I thought, but the card was no good. Promotion of it, terrible. I mean, nobody knew it was going on. I knew it was going on. I went to their website the day of to check the time because I forgot. Their website was off on the time by like 7 hours, and I was like, maybe it's my web browser. So I refreshed it. I checked my time. Nope, it's counting down to start at 8 p.m. Eastern time. That card started at fucking 4 p.m. So I don't know, or 7 p.m. Who knows? It was a mess. PFL is a mess, and Don Davis is an absolute moron. This probably isn't going to sell more than 100,000 pay-per-view buys. I know I need to stop running my mouth about Don Davis so much, but I used to just think, this guy's doing his best out there, but every time I hear him talk, I'm like, what the is this guy talking about? I mean, he's on there constantly bad-mouthing the UFC. Well, and then saying that they need to do a co-promotion, cross-promotion, Francis versus John. It's like, yeah, that'd be an awesome fight. But you need to be like kissing their ass. They're not going to be like, oh, PFL, we're going to come running, begging to let you fight our best guy. Like, what? Tooted. Don Davis, you're a terrible, terrible promoter, terrible at running the PFL. I'm not going to go into it. I have too many episodes out there where I'm just crapping all over the PFL, so we're gonna move on. All right, and moving on means we got Donald the Cowboy Cerrone saying he's coming back for 2 more UFC fights. Dana White hates the idea. He says Cowboy has been openly honest about being on steroids and a shit ton of peptides. The dude's massive. I think he's walking around like 200 right now. If he comes back, I mean, I don't know. Even if you get into the testing pool and you are clean, how legal is it after you've been on steroids for that long to heal your body? I don't know. But yeah, he says he's got 2 fights left. I don't know about it. Steroids is a weird thing. I don't care too much. If you're willing to fight a guy that's on steroids, then who gives a shit? But I do think it should be disclosed if you're on steroids because, you could fucking die by getting hit by one of those bricks. But yeah, Cowboy's looking to come back. Dana White hates it. All the former fighters love it. I'm not really here for it. He looked terrible, not just because of his physical condition, but just, he lost the speed, he lost the edge, he lost that hunger after the McGregor fight especially. So, goodness gracious. But yeah, that's what's going on outside the MMA community. And then finally, we got UFC 308 coming up this next weekend. Topuria versus Holloway. This card is absolutely stacked. We got Rob Whittaker taking on Hamzat Shamaev. We got Leron Murphy taking on Dan 50K Ige. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. Shara Bullet Magomedov versus Armin Petrosian. Jeff Neal versus RDA. Chris Barnett versus Kennedy and Jekyll. I mean, this card is absolutely stacked. You can probably hear my little boy in the background, but that's okay. This is the last bit of the show. I appreciate you tuning in. This was the 93rd episode of Blood and Beer. And make sure you leave a comment, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, wherever you're watching. I appreciate you tuning in. And before we get the next episode out, let me know your best picks for UFC 308. What are your predictions? What's going to be happening? Thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you later.